Is there anybody out there?
The lights in the night sky. Skywatchers. We're watching. We're watching.
Did you see that?
Skywatcher
on Skywatcher Radio. Skywatcherradio.com.
Jayne East.
uforadio.pro, skywatcherradio.com, skywatcherstudios.com, working together for disclosure. We are not alone.
From Skywatcher UFO, Skywatcher Radio.
Oh, yes, that is correct. I am here in North Carolina. I guess everybody could tell from my accent because it seems like I have one, even though I don't think I do.
No, I wouldn't say you had an accent.
Well, I wanted to tell you about a phone call I got the other day and how excited I was. I looked on my caller ID and it said coast to coast. And I thought, oh my God, coast to coast. Only one of the biggest UFO radio networks there is. But guess what? They didn't want me. You know who they wanted?
I have no idea.
Russ Kellett. Russ Kellett. They wanted you. They were trying to track you down.
Yeah, a bit like FBI.
Well, I'm excited, because now you're going to be on their show Monday, right?
Monday my time, Sunday your time.
Well, I'm very excited because they are a really good show, and I understand that you are going to be talking for like the whole 3-hour segment.
Well, yeah, it has been said.
And is Steve Lemley going to be on there too?
Hell yeah. Yeah, it should be. He's the author of the book, which is Berry Mountains Incident Revealed.
Well, that should be quite a conversation.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, obviously, he's the author. He wrote the book about my research about the Berry Mountains, but when they asked me to send a bio, what I did was I just sent them some newspaper clippings because, they speak for themselves, I think. I don't want to butt myself up, as you say in England. And when they read the actual, the newspaper clippings, they said, oh, we didn't realise you were an abductee. So, that took it to a different level, if you see what I mean.
Well, it did, and I'm certainly glad because, not only did you do all that extensive research for Berwyn Mountain, but you have your own experiences with abductions, so I guess they sort of feel like they hit the jackpot.
Well, yeah, the whole reason why I started... Yeah, the whole reason why I started researching and investigating UFOs was to find answers.
And that's what a lot of the abductees do. They start researching so they can find stuff, but it's a huge network. And, for the most part, it's really hard getting abductees to talk about their experiences. So I'm glad that you did because it sort of... mushroomed into a lot of other things for you now.
That's right. Funnily enough, when I was in the group and I was, sort of like going out and investigating and researching UFO reports and people having reports of coming across aliens and abductions, when I was looking into this and head of investigations, and putting on talks, monthly talks, what we had. It was an elderly gentleman that actually came to one of the meetings, and he says to me, and it was really, really strange was this, and he says, you're here, and he says, you have people coming and talking at your meetings. He says, you know, sort of like, you know, like I introduce them, you know, sort of like, and he said, you're introducing these people, you know, sort of like, you know, and he said, it's fascinating listening. He said, but I know for a fact, he said, because hearing you talk, he says that, you know, we'd like to hear your accounts of what happened to you and your story. Why don't you talk about it? So
that must have surprised you.
Yeah, he's sort of like the old gentleman, sort of like elderly gentleman, basically started it off for me. That's when I was back in Bradford, you know, years ago, when I'd, you know, been researching and investigating, and like I say, you know, with this group and putting these monthly meetings on. You know, he'd had the foresight, and sort of like he'd been listening, you know, sort of like on the peripheral a few times, and he must have decided then that I had something important to tell people.
Well, and that was very perceptive of him, and I would say that more than likely maybe he had an experience as well, or he knew someone that had an experience to recognize that in you.
Yeah, these things going hand in hand. That nothing, people just don't turn up. Occasionally, you know, you might get somebody. In all the years, I have only ever come across a couple of times where somebody came to a conference thinking that people were going to be dressed up as characters from science fiction, and they came,
right.
And they came to chuckle, and it was with this blonde woman, and a big dude with a blonde woman laughing, oh, you know, oh, and you know, sort of like, and I says, no mate, I says, if you want to look at something funny, you see that there, that big, a massive window. I said, just look in that. You know what I mean? Sort of like, I don't think he was too pleased, if you know what I mean. I said, look in there. I said, there's a couple of characters, I says, looking at you. I says, if you want to chuckle, have a look there. But apart from that, you know, sort of like, and one more, where somebody was not receptive to what we were talking about. I would say that the majority of people come because they've either seen a UFO, they've seen an identified flying object, a spacecraft, a flying saucer, or something like that, you know, or have had an experience maybe seeing the craft and meeting the occupants, if you see what I mean.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. Everybody that I spoke with at a recent UFO conference, they all had some kind of story like that, and a lot of abductees came there to talk to the authors that had written books, just because they can't forget it. It stays in their mind. It sort of drives them crazy. I mean, they want to know.
That is the problem. I mean, you know, that is the problem. I've tried a few years ago. I'm in a group, and I do a bit for this group and what have you. But you know, it's like a drug. I should imagine it's like a drug. And it's a case of from getting up to going to bed. This is all I live and breathe, more or less.
Well, after seeing all the work that you've done and the amount of articles written about you, I would say I believe that 100%. But I do think the more you tell your story, the more things are coming to light, and you know, facts will be uncovered. Sometimes it doesn't happen all at once, but you're being asked to do, you know, the big radio shows like Coast to Coast, and documentary people are contacting you.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's not just your story anymore. I mean, it's sort of hit the mainstream UFO society, everybody is wanting to know about what happened to you, because from the very beginning, your story hasn't changed.
No, but I have. And the problem with this is that what's happened is that I had memory loss, right, yeah? One of the things, after, when all this lot was going on, I did have memory loss. I had to go, back then it was early days for CAT scans and what have you, you know, brain scan, body scan. You know, I had all this lot what I was going through. You know what I mean? And memory loss and being ill, losing 5 stone and being rushed into hospital. You know what I mean? And sort of like, you know, it's... And trying to find answers. Trying to find out why. And this is what people don't realise. It's alright people talking and what have you. About, oh, what a I'd love to be abducted. I'd love to meet them. Well, let me tell you now, right, yeah? If I had the choice, right, yeah, of not meeting them, right, yeah, and going back to how I was when I had my motorbike and I was living the life I lived, right, yeah, and I was free, right, yeah, I worked hard and sort of like, you know, a motorbike and that life, if I had the choice of going back to that, I would do that without a shadow of a doubt.
You're saying that you would be a different man now than you are if this hadn't have happened, and I can certainly see why, because you've suffered not only with the mental part of trying to figure it out, but you've had a lot of physical problems that goes along with what happened to you. And I mean, today, I mean, I could tell it really is painful for you to stand up sometimes, and you have some trouble walking. But not only that, you have some strange things like marks on your body and, you know, your face, you know, where you suffered that radiation burn or whatever it was. You know, you still have issues going on with your body, so none of that has ended as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it with my hands. I mean, sort of like, you know, it's like I was saying, when I was I had some photographs taken in the convertible, and you know, my mate says, well, they're not very nice car, but they're not very flattering pictures because you know, sort of like you look like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer because your nose is just beaming, your face, you know, like it's like. And when I looked at it, he says, what you need to do is get in a Photoshop. You know,
oh my gosh. Well, that's what friends do. That's what friends do. They tell you stuff like that, don't you? Even though you think, gosh, I just want to get me another friend.
Yeah, well,
but, you know, just a few days ago, you looked like that.
It just happens. There's nothing I can do about it. Someone turned around. I had this woman that I knew, and she says, you know, she says, to say you don't drink, she says, you've got a face of a drinker. What's the face of a drinker, I wonder? You know?
Oh, yes, I know. It's like, have you saw these masks that people wear to, like, the masquerade that just covers around their eyes and over their nose and a little bit of their cheeks?
Yeah.
Drinkers that drink really heavy have capillaries that sort of, they're very tiny right under the skin, but a excessive drinker, these capillaries sort of branch out and explode, and it makes your face really red. So that's what she's talking about. But you don't drink.
No, I never have done. I used to have the odd pint, and I mean it was the odd pint every now and again. But I was never been drugs.
Well, you know, it takes
training and motorbikes and building my motorbike up and what have you, and
that took up all of your time. You know, you were just living a normal life.
Yeah, well, I went to work, I came home, had my tea, and I was straight out, down to see my mate, and we'd go maybe see a couple more friends in bike club, and on a certain night we'd go to a bike meeting, and then we might go see another friend at their bike, you know, sort of, not their bike meeting, but the pub where they used to have, you know, sort of like, where they used to be, you know, sort of like, and just go for a natter and see how they're doing and what have you. And then we'd go just for a ride out and what have you, to coast them and stuff like that.
And your life didn't return back to that after all of this started? You never had that feeling of normalcy again, did you?
No, I haven't, no. And sort of like, I long for it. You know, I still long for it. You know?
And you know, you deserve it. I'm hoping with all the attention that your story is getting that, you know, maybe other people back from that time, you know, maybe something happened to other people besides you. It's just being able to get this information out to the public. And it was really good, you know, when you put the newspaper clippings on, and you put pictures earlier of how you looked back then at that time. So,
oh, right, yeah.
who knew? You look totally different. The only thing I thought, yeah, that's his smile. It must be him.
Oh, it's definitely me. It's still, you know, that was me when I was younger. That's me. You know, sort of like, you know, it's.
Well, just the look on your face. I mean, you know, you can just sort of go back and imagine what your life used to be like back then, and it's, you know, over the years. I mean, like you said, this has been your life since then. You know, when you get up every day. So,
funnily enough,
I think it's.
Sorry. Funnily enough,
Oh, what?
someone actually asked me a question, and it says, "Russ, have you gone?"
Oh, well, yeah, I'm back now. I want to hear what the question was. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, somebody asked me. They says, "Do you ever smile in any photographs?"
Right, you weren't smiling in any of those pictures. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, someone says, "Is it a thing that males in England do? You know, sort of like when they have the photographs taken. You know, that they're trying to look mean and moody."
Well, were you a serious type guy?
Not really, no.
Hmm.
I used to have, I'd practice. We used to, you know, I used to have a laugh. I used to be fun. We used to have jokes. I used to do stuff, and you know, sort of like, I used to have a very good sense of humour, to be honest. I don't know where it's gone.
Oh, you still have it sometimes when you know.
Oh, do you mean sometimes? Don't be cheeky.
Well, you know, sometimes, you know, when you're picking on poor Derek Savory.
Oh,
but,
dear.
you know, there is a contrast between your life back then and now, but hopefully, you know, I think good things are coming your way, and I think answers are on the way, and that's why we're doing all these shows. But, you know, Rachel and I both do 2 different shows. She does Starseeds, and, you know, of course I do Skywatchers, and I am very excited. I believe I shared with you a few days ago that I'm going to get to interview this week Chad Meek, which is, of course, the producer of the Giant Rock. Have you heard about the Giant Rock?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Well, I didn't really know all that much about it.
Is that in the desert? Yeah, of course, yeah.
In the Mojave Desert.
Yeah.
And George Van Tassel, who was, he was a contactee, and all of this sort of got started with him. He built a small airport in the vicinity, and I didn't know that Howard Hughes and other movie stars and stuff came there, but a lot of interesting sightings went on in the area, and he had quite a following. So they're making the documentary, and it's supposed to come out next year, so he is going to be talking about that, which I think, you know, California has a lot of UFO sightings, and, you know, so does Arizona, so I was really happy about getting this interview.
Yeah, I mean, that is good. That is good. I was reading something some time ago, you know, and it was basically talking about all the you know, the great fathers of ufology, you know, like Adamski and what have you. You know,
yeah.
sort of like, what's that other, the other guy, there's about 4 different ones. There's 4 different characters, you know, sort of like, that you could say that they're sort of like the fathers of like ufology with abductions and what have you, if you see what I mean. And, you know, sort of like, when you look and when you see what, you know, must have happened to them and the kind of things that they were going through, you know, sort of like, you know, it just makes you wonder what was, you know, because obviously they haven't all met the same type of creatures, you know what I mean? It just makes you wonder,
there's
you know,
all different ones.
Yeah. I'm so tired today. my brain's hurting, but I'm just trying to think of the names. Of the guys, you know, sort of like it was there at the time, if you know what I mean.
Well, I was really surprised that back in the day when Tassel was organizing UFO events, he actually got 11,000 people to come to his UFO event. And that really shocked me. So something was going on back then. I guess, you know, after Roswell and everything, people had, you know, a bigger interest in stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you remember, though, you know, 10 years ago, we had the golden age of ufology, you know, where, you know, there's all, you know, you could remember all, you know, sort of like the fathers, you know, and the mothers of ufology, you know, sort of like who've been out there and sort of like spreading the word, etc., about their own, you know, cases and what have you, what had happened to them. But we had something very, very similar in the UK, because it was when the X-Files came along, you know, sort of like, I used to like the X-Files for the paranormal, not necessarily the UFO, but the paranormal subjects that it brought into the sort of like the front, if you see what I mean. But when you look at the X-Files, and there was that many people involved in groups in this country, and you know, around the world on the whole, you know, there was thousands of people, you know, that was researching this subject.
You're right, and they amassed a huge amount of books and evidence, and you know, you hear all the time about widows saying, well, you know, my husband died, he studied ufology and did his own research, and they have tons of books, and they just give them away, or they throw them in the trash, which is horrible.
Well, but, you know, I came across, I am not joking, my friend came across a lady whose husband had died, and, you know, he got talking to her, and she said, you know, oh yeah, you know, and he must have had cinefilm. He must have actually had cinefilm and what have you, and photographs. And she said, you know, he had this cinefilm and photographs, and he'd spend money, he'd you know, sort of like meet people and what have you, you know. And she says, really, she says, it ruined my life. But no, she said that afterward. What she said, what he said to her, well, have you still got any of, you know, the actual photographs or cinefilm? And she said, no, she said, I threw it away, I chucked it in the bin. She says, you know, sort of like over 2 weeks, she says, of the bins coming, she says, I chucked it all. She said, because she says it ruined, she says, he said that, she said it ruined, she said, our relationship over the years.
Well, yeah, I can see that, because basically, if you're really into ufology, you do have a time where you want to travel and go talk to witnesses and go see areas and collect evidence. So, yeah, it's there's so many sightings. I mean, you could virtually go every day and travel somewhere or talk to some witness about, you know, a sighting if you really wanted to.
That's right, yeah. I mean, she said that it preyed on his mind.
Yes.
You know,
well, you know, George Fawcett lived at Mount Airy, and, you know, when he passed away, I can just imagine what an amount of things that he had, and I hope that he passed it on to some of his, you know, if he had children or something like that, he passed his research on, because he was really dedicated, just, you know, like a lot of people are, you know, like you are. But, you know, I really do have a concern. You know, you speak to a lot of abductees and everything, and, you know, I've interviewed a few. You know, what do people do, you know, when they think they've been abducted? You know, for a long time they just carry that stuff around with them, and it torments them.
Lots of people don't want to talk.
Yeah, you're right. And I was excited. Well, I was excited, you know, we got our first, Skywatcher Studio got their first newspaper article, and we actually had a doctor respond to it, and this was surprising. She does something, has a website called Exo Consciousness, and her name is Dr. Rebecca Wright, and she specializes in people that have been abducted. And she has done a lot of metaphysical research and counseling, and so, you know, I thought, wow, that's great, because I feel like abductees, they're sort of out on a limb. I mean, look at you, you're having to do your own research, and, you know, I'm sure back in the day when all this happened, it just must have been going round and round inside your head.
Oh, I could not explain what it was like in the early days. You know, I can't really I mean, I used to be involved with one or two different groups with things I was training, and I was wanting to join something called Territorial Army, right? Yeah, and because I used to do a lot of shooting as well, right? And I just knew, when all this happened, I just knew that I couldn't do it. The training that I was doing, I couldn't do. It was getting really hard. I couldn't even get out of bed on the morning to go to work. You know? I could not.
Yeah, you just lost your desire to do a lot of that stuff, I guess.
No. What happened was, I just lost. It was like, first of all, one thing happened. I had a loss of weight, which was like 5 stone within 2 months, right? Yeah, and that was telltale sign something is seriously wrong, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Loss of appetite. I did start to lose my hair anyway, sort of thing. I'd still got this sunburn, which never really went, but there were all sorts of strange things happening. My breathing, having problems breathing. Let's just say there were other problems why I couldn't go out of the house, because my waterworks were playing, you know.
We're out of time, and we're also having some technical issues, so I want to thank Russ Kellett for being our guest, and thank all you guys for tuning in to Skywatcher Radio.
You've been listening to Skywatcher Radio Show.
Is there anybody out there?
If you'd like to be a guest on the show, contact us through our website, skywatcherradio.com, or on our Facebook page.